And I love to work with groups in conflict, which people don't understand, but for me it's very satisfying because it's not that difficult to get out of it. Once, and as an outsider it's not difficult. The only time I can help them is if my buttons get pushed. So, but if my emotional buttons don't get pushed, it's very simple to solve it because it's basically helping people to look at their assumptions and test out in a safe environment to have these conversations that they don't have dare to have anymore. No, I have been called in my organization when we have local teams, in-country teams that are in conflict, and there were two that jump out for me. One was in Guinea and one was in Afghanistan, and they had a similar dynamic. The Afghanistan one, we had a lot of different dimensions, and I like to map them out. After I interview everybody to get their story, one of the first things I tell when I feed back the information is that all of the stories are right. Because there's this idea that my story is right and your story is not right. I see it this way and they just don't get it. So I started saying that all these stories make total sense for me as an outsider. When I listen to people's reasoning about why they're right and other people are wrong, it makes total sense given where they are. And then I speak to the person that they're in conflict with and I listen to that story and I say, oh, that makes total sense. So the first one is to sort of to take the edge of it, like there is one right story and all the others are wrong. So that's the first piece. And the second one, I tend to map out all these tensions. So it's male-female, Pashto, whatever the other one was. In South Africa would be in the struggle in South Africa, in the struggle from outside South Africa. And so depending on the context, you can come up with like a compass rose with all of these different tensions. And you look at that and you said, well, no wonder you have conflict. It's amazing that you do anything at all, that you get anything done given that. And I think that sort of shifts, it's a reframing basically. So it shifts how people look at that, and first of all they say, yeah, it is amazing that we get anything done. And secondly, that they begin to see that if you are in another position, black or white, male or female, high or low, nurse, doctor, that the world looks very different. And it's a phrase I think that Pierre Singer wrote. It's come and look through my window, because the view is slightly different than your window. And if you imagine this being like a large penthouse with 16, depending on how many dimensions, so you have 16 windows. You think about those rotating restaurants. That's a wonderful metaphor. A rotating restaurant, so that your view changes all the time. And so my hope is in these conversations that it becomes a rotating restaurant, and that they begin to see, oh yeah, if you're a black woman nurse, then of course it looks like this. And of course there's a lot of past hurt with the ones that have been dominated. That I can't deal with that, but just recognize that it's there.